Three, two, one.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Schroeder with Smart Community Technologies, and I have Ian Kingston with us, who is a data specialist, like a junior data scientist, maybe a senior data scientist, right, Ian? Are you a senior or a junior?
I would say I'm probably more senior at this point.
Wow. Okay. But he's obviously a specialist in data. We're looking at our new email dashboard, which is a unique email dashboard that's normally only given to the top agencies in the United States. We'll get rid of these messages. Sorry about that. But it's not your typical email dashboard such as a MailChimp or a Constant Contact. This dashboard is designed to acquire new customers, not necessarily email your database. Most email programs that businesses can use are, like a MailChimp or a Constant Contact or something that a small business owner might use. You are not allowed to use email to acquire customers. As a matter of fact, you actually sign an agreement that says you will not do this because that violates the spam law. So it's very risky doing that, right?
Right. So just to elaborate a little bit on that, and make sure everybody who's watching this is pretty sound in the understanding. Typically, when you're going to be running a campaign on MailChimp or Constant Contact, something like that, you're in the terms and conditions, you're agreeing that you will only send off the emails to people who have opted into receiving your emails for those purposes. Now, that means that whenever you go out to another data provider and you obtain a list of emails as a way to try and attempt to contact them, you're already violating those terms and conditions. And very often we've seen a lot of these kinds of people get shut off and lose all ability to do email through, say, MailChimp, Constant Contact, and a lot of our other kind of ESP providers out there. And the true advantage to really working with this platform is that we have all of that kind of data sitting behind and on this platform itself, where we've got access to over 250 million emails of people where we've already scrubbed them, we've already gotten them opt-in verified, permission-based, and also CAN-SPAM compliant, so that you can actually use these emails to go out and form your own marketing campaign to target and generate those leads for your company in order to boost your response performance and return on investment through email.
Yeah, and email. I just read a report, Ian. Maybe you can comment on this, but it was just Sunday, so yesterday. Today is Monday, and it talked about email being the new push, because email now is so much like a text message or a push message when you have an app. And since so many people are accessing email on their phone, which is a fairly new phenomenon, right, with all these different Microsoft Exchange servers now being affordable and POP3 kind of going away, email now can serve as it's almost like a push message or a text message with full color, because so many people are answering on their phone. Have you heard anything like that?
Right, and for the last probably year or so, it's really kind of been making a resurgence. For a long time, people were saying between anti-spam laws and just the over an abundance of the amount of emails that are going out, that email has actually been getting weaker, when it's become actually the opposite in the last year or so, because of what you said. So many people actually bringing those emails to their phone number, to their phones themselves, and so now they basically receive emails like they'll receive a text message. It'll pop up at the top of their screen. They'll be able to read the quick first line of it. So it's important in combination to also tailor your email specifically to reach that target audience. And on top of it, email in the last year has really become one of the most valuable marketing channels that you have available, as it provides one of the highest, if not the highest, ROI, depending on whatever industry you're in, for an actual marketing channel. It does work even more strongly when it's combined with other marketing channels, including digital, traditional, telemarketing, etc. But email is, through and through, been one of the channels that has actually benefited the most from the immersion of everything being connected, and from mobile phones actually incorporating email in such a profound way.
Yeah, I actually read that's what kind of got my attention. But It had the top 3 ways consumers actually preferred. They gave them 3 options. They say, how would you like a company to communicate with you? And they gave them 3 choices, because I mean, I think these are about the only 3 other than direct mail. In other words, the three choices. I mean, they did put direct mail in, and we'll talk a little bit about direct mail later, because we can access their physical address along with a number of other data criteria. This is a turbocharged, supercharged dashboard. Goes well beyond email with the data and targeting capabilities. But amazingly enough, email was the number 1 preference. Text message was number 2, and push was number 3. Now, I've always thought that push would be preferred, but the reason it apparently came in number 3 was because the consumers knew that it required the download of an app, and they're so frustrated with the app being nothing more than a website on a phone. They preferred not to have to download something for the business to communicate with them in a timely and efficient manner. Now, what they did say was that communication needs to be relevant, it needs to be personalized, and it needs to be timely according to what they want and what they don't want. Because they said if it's anything like a spam or something they don't like, or doesn't appeal to, or it shows that the business doesn't know who they are as an individual person, they became absolutely angry and disengaged. And IBM did a follow-up study. It was called Know Me or Lose Me. And the customers are fed up that businesses don't have dashboards like this that can actually learn about them and communicate with them in ways that they want to be communicated with. And we do all of that. So that was pretty fascinating. Thank you. So we don't get too long. You tell me where to go, Ian, because I'm controlling the dashboard here,
Right.
and then you can talk about it. So I think what we'll do to save time is go right down the main menu here, this count, dashboard, campaign, whatever, and kind of show the power of this thing and how this can really help small businesses because they've been shut out of these kinds of capabilities. This is a big boy solution, and something small businesses really need to compete. So we're pretty excited to share it with them.
So why don't we start, like you said, let's go down the main menu dashboard there, and let's go into count. Why don't we just click on Run New Consumer Count right there.
Okay, got it.
Now this gives you the first 2 tabs here are geographic selects and demographic selects. So we're going to first identify geographically where we're going to want to target these people. So why don't we just pick a random sample? Let's go with my home state of Rhode Island. Now people are familiar. There's about a million or so people that live in the state of Rhode Island. So if we just click on Rhode Island, why don't you go ahead and click the button that says full state right there, right underneath Rhode Island.
So there's about 1 million people in Rhode Island.
Yep, there's about 1 million people as population is concerned in the state of Rhode Island. Now let's go over to...
Let me click on cities here. So it'll populate the cities, and it'll also populate the counties. Are these all the counties in Rhode Island, Ian?
Yes, it is. In fact, I live right in Kent County itself. But Rhode Island being the smallest state, 1 million people, it makes for a pretty good sample size to look at, and it also makes it rather unique because you get to see an awful lot of cultural integration within a single state. So that's why I like to pick it as a demo.
So cities and counties are already loaded no matter which state we do, so that we can pick out a city, a county, or a whole state and target certain people, correct?
Correct. And if you expand any of the other geographic filters that we have there, you can expand DMA, which stands for direct market area. And this will identify the primary direct market areas throughout the entire country. I believe.
Now, what is a direct marketing area? What is that, a direct marketing area?
Those are the areas that are set up by a company called Nielsen Group, and they're used to identify demographic clusters surrounded by major metropolitan areas that are, considered to be distinct of each other and respond according to the response average within those major metropolitan areas. So if you go down, I believe Providence is on this list. If not, we can at least select Boston as an example, but I'd like to stick.
Yeah, here's Providence. So when we select Providence, do we need to select the whole state of Rhode Island and Providence? No?
Nope, because that would be, they would end up conflicting. You'd only end up with the ones that fit both.
Okay. So now we could do, if we're doing all of Rhode Island, and we could do Portland, Maine, or whatever, right? That's what it means. Add it to the search, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and over here where it says selects added, this is what we've done so far. So far we have state equals all of Rhode Island. right?
You got it. So
okay, that's easy how that works. So how do I get rid of that? Just click on the add button away, or
you just click on DMA, and then
now zip code. What does that do?
You can just enter one zip code per line, or you can comma separate them, and you can just develop if you're going to really target a specific set of zip codes. It's pretty straightforward. SCF, that I can't remember off the top of my head what the S stands for, but it's some sort of postal center facility for processing of mailing deployments. And essentially think of it about it as the first 3 digits of zip code. So it takes up a larger area than the zip codes themselves. Think about somewhere between 200,000 people in an SCF all the way up to a couple million people within an SCF.
So like I'm in Georgia, which my zip code is 30041, but there's 30040 and 300 whatever. So the SCF is like a 3-digit code. So if I go 300, is it all the okay? That's pretty cool. Okay, the area code is what of the phone?
It would be the phone number. So it, as you can see the little phone icon there. So the state of Rhode Island only has one area code. So you would get the exact same number of records here for the state of Rhode Island, so long as every single record has an area code attributed to it. And the area code for Rhode Island is 401. If anybody's interested in learning that, but let's say you have. Massachusetts, you'll get 978. San Jose, California, you'll get 669. There's all different kinds of area codes that you can look at.
Okay, very good. And then the radius is like a geofence radius in miles between a certain zip code. And how does that work? Do we actually draw? We just put the radius we want, and boom.
It'll take the geospatial direct center as calculated for that zip code and draw a circle around that zip code. Based in miles, and whatever's captured within that radius geospatially, based on latitude and longitude coordinates, it will grab every single record that fits the criteria within that circle.
And as you said, we have about 250 million records, which is really just about every adult person in the U.S. And do we also have all the business information as well?
On the email side, unfortunately, we do not have the business information. Strictly on this email platform that we're demoing right now. As far as the background behind the data that can actually support this, we're looking to incorporate business email in the future, but that is currently not available.
Yeah, and of course we have all the business information on the data side, just not on the email side in this dashboard at the present time, correct?
Correct.
So once we have that, you'll be able to do business and consumer all in one. When do you anticipate that'll be added to this dashboard?
The hopes is that it's added within the next year. There are some other higher priorities that we're working on currently, and of course, market demand will always drive what things are added. So if there's any client potentially watching this that would like that to be a potentially added in solution, we can always work out a deal.
Excellent. Okay, then multi-radius, and what does that do? Like, how does that work actually?
It's think about radius, except you add in more zip codes, so you make a lot more circles.
Okay, that's about it. So that's everything on the geographic side, okay, right? That's all you kind of need to know there. Do we go to the demographics now?
Yeah, let's go to the demographics.
Now, on the demographic link, is the geographic takes precedence. So far, all we chose was Rhode Island. So now we're going to choose the demographic selects out of Rhode Island. Is that correct?
Correct. So any demographic select that we'll pick from this point will be a further filter on the state of Rhode Island. So think of the geographic selects as well as the demographics being an and together kind of logic, where if you're located in this state and your age is between this range, then we'll be able to pull your information.
Okay, so this is a little bar that's easy to go. I mean, you could 20 to 80, whatever you want to do on the age range, right?
Right.
Okay, so let's go now. See how it's 35 to 81. What if I wanted to do 35 to 45? I grab this one over here. Oh, that's how you do it, huh?
You got it.
All right,
that's simple.
I like that. Okay, so let's go. Can we do 35 to 45 just for the heck of it?
You got it. And just
I'm going to add it.
Yep.
Okay, there it is, 35 to 40. Now, charitable donation, what does that do?
Let's just minimize that age range up there while we go down so we can keep it focused. When we have the charitable donation, all it is, and you're going to want to leave that text box the way it is it identifies people who have a propensity to donate to charitable causes. So
do we know what type of charitable causes?
In this specific data piece, no, but we can always end up adding in additional filters depending on clients' needs for looking at the different levels of donorship and what kinds of causes they donate to. For example, political conservative donors versus political liberal donors, or people who donate to environmental causes or religious causes, etc.
We can drill that down on the data side. So what you're saying is obviously the data records with 250 million people, every business in the United States, getting every single entity down into the dashboard is a massive it's a massive endeavor, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so which is why we can always do it, okay, but it's not here by default because it's all because this is a fairly new dashboard with this kind of a power. Is that correct?
Correct. This dashboard itself was created within, I believe, it was finished within the last 6 months or so, and we're always adding to it.
Wow. Okay, good. And I got some suggestions for you, and you always listen to them, so I appreciate that. Okay, let's go. Not always, okay, but for the most part. Okay, credit rating, that's kind of self-explanatory. Now, this is really, I've had a couple of clients tell me we can't really log in by credit score, but this, and actually this could even be more accurate than a credit score because it takes in a lot of different data to come up with the estimate of the group they're in. Is that correct?
Correct. So these credit ratings themselves are not like the actual person's FICO score, let's say, that's built on a FICO score 8, or if anybody is actually familiar with how credit scores are developed, you're familiar that there's about a million different kinds of ways you can develop somebody's credit score, and somebody who has an 800 plus in one credit rating might be between 700 and 750 in another, and that all just comes down to how they weight different things together. Now, given that we have 250 million people, and we have all this kind of data available on them, and we've got some even additional filters that we're not able to expose on the platform here that feed into it as well. We're able to build our own level of sophisticated model and put people within these approximate credit rating bands that you can use to say, okay, most likely this person is sitting at a credit score between 750 and 800 for any given particular credit score rating methodology.
And actually, we're using more data than the FICO people are using to give them a score. Is that correct?
Right, because the FICO will look at things like payment history. They'll look at amount of credit and revolving. Have they ever missed a payment? Have they ever declared a bankruptcy, etc.? And we're looking at it from 700 plus variables that will, anyone in particular could potentially be brought in to determine that credit rating. Things like net worth and things like mortgage debt, etc., can all be factored into that credit rating.
Incredible. And then dwelling type, obviously that's pretty self-explanatory. Education, here we go. So we can high school, whatever they did. Okay, that's pretty cool. Ethnic code, wow, this is whether they're Indian, American, or whatever we want to do there, right?
You got
ethnic group. Okay, we got ethnic group.
So basically, quick note on the ethnic group and the ethnic code. Essentially, people don't like the word ethnic coding, but it's really just trying to identify which background an ethnic group person would be most likely to associate with. And then the ethnic group is to identify regionally and specifically where this person would identify as coming from. So whether you're Southeast Asian or you're, Western European versus maybe African, those are the different kinds of groups that you'll see. So it's not specifically Zimbabwean for African, it's going to be African as a whole.
Okay, I got that. That's excellent. Now, food and wine, when we see these yes and no's, whenever you see that, and we'll see it maybe in a few of these things, what that means is they have the propensity. Now, what do you mean, the propensity to eat food?
The propensity for somebody to have a known interest in food and wine. So think about it as culinary arts in this case.
All right, very good. And then obviously the gender's pretty obvious, okay? Although it may not be as obvious. Are we adding to that? No, we don't get into that. Okay. Health and beauty, right? Okay, there's a propensity score for that. Home market value. Now, I think this is assessed value, not actual value. Is that correct?
We're looking at how the home value would be assessed, correct, within the market itself. So it's not a I'm selling my home for this much. It's more of, okay, when we look at the tax assessor documents and we look at everything else cross valued together, what market value can we assume to assign to that given property?
And how many of these categories that we've kind of gone over do we have? There's about 25 or so, and there's more being added all the time.
Right. There's more that are added. There are more that can be added depending on a needs situation.
Yep.
We
right.
don't. The important piece here is to try and cover the most common filters for people to experience, just to give them at least a general idea of what's available. And then if there's a need or a business case to add in additional filters, those can be addressed.
Now, when we get to something like income estimated, how do we know what these people earn or what their income is? Do we access the tax rolls?
There's a number of different sources that feed into income estimated. Now, given the underscore HH, when you see that in here, that stands for household. So we're looking at people who share a last name and occupy the exact same address. So we're looking at even like down to the suite level. Jane and Joe Doe will both be, at 123 Main Street, Suite A. Their income combined together will give you that estimated income. And that income can be built and derived from a number of different things. It can be modeled based on the people in the surrounding area. If everybody else is within plus or minus 10% of each other, they'll be placed within the most approximate bucket. If we have their income directly, then we'll attribute it directly to those individual income bands. And then you've also got the tax assessor. How much are they paying in taxes? How much does the tax assessor say that they make as a household, etc.
Okay, very good. And jewelry is a yes or no. Got that. Language, what kind of language? Wow, got all kinds of languages. That's pretty interesting. Even in the U.S., you access all these languages, don't you?
Yep.
Marital status, yeah, and this is in the household. That's the HH household, right?
Right.
And so, what's that mean is that you actually have records of. Now, what does inferred married mean? We're not sure if they are married. They could be living together.
We can't exactly prove that they're married. Potentially, they have a different last name, but they file jointly on a tax return. Or perhaps they're have the same last name, male and male, male female, female female, and they're approximately this, within give or minus 5 years of the same age, and occupy the same location for a given number of years. So there's a few different things that can feed into inferring marital status versus knowing it outright.
Okay, net worth. Now, this is not what they make. Is this their investments?
This is the total value of that person on a balance sheet if you were to take them and make them basically into a business and make them an accountant type view of the person. So it's the assumed total amount of value that they have in their equity in their mortgage versus maybe what they owe for their mortgage, as well as their amount of money, say, in savings or in stocks, bonds, etc., as attributed based on those same tax assessor documents that are used to estimate their income. And all that's kind of put together. So do they owe a lot of student loans? Do they owe a lot on their credit cards? Do they owe a lot in their mortgage versus do they have a lot of money into their house? Do they have a lot of money in savings? Do they have a lot of stocks, bonds, etc.?
Okay, that sounds good. And the occupation, wow, we got all kinds of occupations, self-employed, whatever you need to do there. That's kind of interesting. Pets, that's it. Yeah, pets in the house, is that the idea?
It's more of a generally speaking, it's going to be built on whether or not that person has a buying history of buying lots of pet food, pet toys, pet things like that, and very often is also attributed to whether or not they have a registered pet in their house.
Okay, now presence of children in the data, we can actually drill down to whether they have 1, 2, 3, or 4 more present. But here for now, we just have yes or no. There's at least some children in the house, correct?
Correct.
And then religion, is that what they have claimed somewhere as being or whatever, right?
Got it. It's what they identify themselves as practicing as their religion.
Smoking tobacco, that's obviously yes or no. I don't know why. Maybe people, I guess they have to put that they do that, tobacco, right?
Right.
Probably will be, pretty soon we'll be adding other ingredients to that, but not now, right?
Yeah, maybe a few states could also potentially have that already.
Right, exactly. Okay, now travel domestic. Yes, what? I mean, they have a propensity to travel in the U.S. as compared to outside the U.S. with international.
Right. Those are typically attributed to people who have a known history of traveling domestically or internationally, or both. I mean, you can be flagged as either one or both.
Now, what is it? What does it take to be flagged as a person who? Do you have to travel at least 3 times a year or something, or what makes that propensity?
It's somebody who has taken what is looked at as being a travel within the last 6 months to a year, commonly over a period of history. So
Okay,
travels at least once a year, every year, kind of a thing.
Yeah, once a year. Okay, so that's that, and we can drill down on that more if we have to.
And of
Okay,
course,
so
that
that's
last filter was veteran in a household, which is fairly self-explanatory. Is the person a known military veteran who lives in the household?
excellent. So I mean, so combining all of those categories, I mean, you can really get granular incredibly, right? And then, so once we have it, now all we did was do 35 to 45 in Rhode Island, right? That's all we did, right?
Yep, got it.
Now, what do we do? Run a count?
If you hit count, it's going to ask you to name it first.
Okay.
And so why don't we just put RI 35 to 45?
All right. So now we can name it whatever. Does it store it so that we have that search all the time?
You got it. So if you hit OK, it'll actually populate it really quick, and we can identify that we've got available in the state of Rhode Island 41,704 emails that we're able to actually send out. And again, just to highlight that point, they're permission-based, opt-in verified emails that are CAN spam compliant, and you can actually reach out to these people right now if you wanted to send them an email.
And look at this. What's his database? This is the year all these 41,000 people were born?
Right, and that's what is the, if you were to think about it as the SQL query used, or the database query used to identify people who are between those ages, so 35 to 45.
Now, once we have this, let's say, you know what, we want to email them all. What do we do next?
Okay, so if you go into the next part on that left side dashboard, there's the campaign. This is where we would incorporate it, but I would suggest that we move past this for a minute. Why don't we go down to the advertiser dashboard?
Okay, before we leave that, this is kind of interesting. A lot of people have asked me about this because
definitely.
we did the consumer account, we did the dashboard, right? What's this political count? I'm going to click on that now. So now it added another select, right?
You got it.
So if we click on that, we can see what party affiliation. Democrat, independent. What's NPA?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's no political affiliation, I believe is what it stands for. So instead of somebody registering as Republican, Democratic, NPA would mean like I choose to stay away from any kind of political ideology. I vote on my own. So independent will typically say that I vote for the person who's mostly in the middle. Democrat, obviously, typically people on the left, and Republican, typically people on the right. And then other will be your catch-all for the remainder of, Green Party, even your communist parties, and Libertarian, Authoritarian Party, that kind of thing.
Okay, so it does not mean non-Pennsylvania. That somebody thought that. Now, number of times voted. Now, what mean 1 to 18? This is how many times they voted for. In the past 10 years. Okay.
Yep.
And then you can. So we even know when everybody votes.
Yep, you know how many times they voted within the past 10 years. The voter history for general election is pretty straightforward as well. They're basically just used to identify, okay, these are people, for example, for voter history general election, let's only grab the people who voted in the 2008 general election.
Okay.
That would be the 2008. And, of course, as people know, that's the Obama election where he was first voted into office.
Right. Now, as 2017 closes, then we'll have that data. It'll automatically be added to the dashboard then, correct?
Right. This is for looking at specifically general elections versus presidential primaries, etc., and then other elections, obviously.
Primary, right? Okay, got that.
So if you see in the general election, it's every 2 years because you have your general elections for state senators and representatives every 2 years, whereas in the presidential primary, presidential elections only happen every 4 years. And moving into the voter history of other election, if you want to expand.
Okay, and then voter history, what's that? Other, whatever, huh?
This is any additional election.
Okay, very good. Okay, so that's what the political thing is. Now the view all counts we already did, right?
Yep, this will just pull up your history of counts that you've run before.
This is everything you've ever done, right? So I think somebody did educated boomers in California, and they were surprised. They thought it was 0, but actually it's 909,000. Okay.
Be careful if you should list any Californians. No offense, of course. This is all joking.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's not what Ian and I thought. That's just what we heard. Okay. Okay. So now you wanted me to skip something, Ian, and go down to where?
So skip campaign and tracking for now, and let's go down to advertiser, and we can go over what.
Yeah, I've had some people ask about this, so tell us what this does.
So we have like a couple samples in there: Smart Community, contact name of Steve, and a test, just to give an example. What this really does is it's a way for you to, if we deploy the actual platform for you as the client who's watching this right now, for you to run your own campaigns. We can brand it Smart Community Tech, etc., for you as it is, and these advertisers would say be your clients, your agencies, your businesses, etc., that you want to be able to track a specific campaign. If you're in what we call an end user, where we're brandishing this campaign pack for you, let's say you're Ford, for example, and you want to track your advertisements for the Ford F-150 as opposed to the Ford Fiesta, etc., advertiser can take on a few different meanings here. And what it really represents is a way for you to track how that advertiser itself, whatever you want to label that as an aggregate, to view its performance over time.
Okay, I get it. That's pretty intense. And if we have any questions, what's this little? I'll click on this little wrench, whatever that means. Oh, that just means which direction it goes. Now, I've heard, and you why don't you clarify here for the audience that's listening, whoever that may be, but some of the agencies who control this kind of capability, which is pretty big boy stuff, right? This could be even more enhanced than even some agencies because the dashboard's fairly new, but to email people like this that are not even customers with a 250 million person database with businesses being added soon, I've heard that they charge them upwards between $150 to $250 per 1,000, sometimes even more. Is that what you have heard too?
Yeah, I mean, some clients, to have a fully managed solution, can pay, almost literally an arm and a leg to get this kind of service. And of course, we try not to encroach on those levels of pricing ourselves. We are very competitive in our offering, and we can build this out for basically any kind of client's needs. As long as they need to email, we can fit them.
Yeah, and for the first time now, we can bring this kind of power to an affordable small business owner, really almost any small business owner that we want to use. I mean, I think our minimum might be around $1,000 or whatever it may be, but we can combine a number of things that, and obviously they're going to get a lot of people for that. It's not that you get very few. So even though the minimum maybe sound like kind of expensive, you're going to get a lot of people, and then we can kind of, it's, based on what you're doing, that's what we do. So that's the advertiser dashboard. And we can fiddle with that. If I click on this edit thing, okay.
You'll be able to just edit the different options that you have there. So we just set it up as a basic example kind of record.
Okay, and then what else should we look at next?
Go into the email creative builder.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with HTML email developing, this is a very simple drag and drop. It even has a tour for you to walk through if you'd like to. It has a very basic drag and drop element, so you can actually build and customize your own emails inside of this platform if you don't have anything particular to use outside of the platform. So a lot of our clients will choose to upload their own emails that they design in-house or through a creative suite or team. Other people will choose to actually just develop their own emails inside of this dashboard because it's got pretty much anything you'll need. It's got the ability to link to different social profiles. It's got the ability to add headers, footers, typography, media, the layout, specifically what you want, add in buttons that you can have linkable to any pretty much place on the World Wide Web. You can add different kinds of elements as you see fit, be able to save them and update them later on. And
what's that button, 2 button, 3 button thing? Should we click on it and see what happens, or
click and drag it out?
Oh, I see. So where was I at again?
Go back to elements.
Elements. Oh yeah, there we went. Okay, so we go 2 button and you just go now.
Yep.
Now you got 2 buttons. Okay, 3 button. There you go. And what? Now the 3-button had these color codes over here. Oh, they all have that. Okay.
Yep.
So it's
And
all
so
drag and drop.
It's exactly drag and drop. And
Look at that.
all of the different social media icons that you have in there. Now, if you hover over, see that top right of that box you're in right there?
Right here?
Yep. Click on the less than / greater than sign.
Okay.
And this will actually bring up the actual block code. So if you're somebody who's a little bit more sophisticated and familiar with how HTML, CSS type coding is, you can actually get into the bare meat and bones of what these individual buttons are and which ones you want to have displayed within the actual source itself. So you can choose to only have Twitter and Facebook show up, for example, using this kind of editing tool.
It's pretty powerful. I've looked at a lot of dashboards, Ian, and I know you're kind of biased because we've kind of worked on this together. And I'm kind of biased too, but I really think this is the most powerful email dashboard in existence. Would you classify it as that, or am I being a little bit too?
I might be biased, but I have the. I happen to agree with you right now. I haven't seen anything out there yet that can compete with all the things that we provide, especially at the price point we can compete at.
Yeah, and we're never satisfied, are we, Ian? We're always looking,
always building on what we've got.
Yeah, and we already know we've got a lot of plans for the next year on how this gets better, literally every single month.
You got it. Now, before we hop into resources, that'll be the next place we go after we look at creative examples. So why don't we hop down to the bottom there, creative examples, just to show you some of the different creatives that we've actually built and run through this platform. Let's give it just a second.
I'll go ahead and there you are. So they all populate. No, they just take a little time, and then I can narrow down by here, right? Automotive. Let's look at that. There's some neat stuff. Yeah. Okay. Now we can't use these. These are just examples, right?
These are just examples for you to see, the power and sophistication we can actually build using these emails. The email creative builder that's inside the platform. Every single one here was built using that email creative builder platform we were just looking at.
Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, these are very nice, right? I think that was a bowling one. Okay, so that's what that is, and that's just to look at. You can't. Now, if you want to build one exactly like that, then we can do that. Obviously, with all the tools that we have, we just need the artwork or whatever, right?
Yep, it's just creative inspiration right now. Now, if we go to resources as our next place.
Let's go to resources, okay.
In here, we provide you with a list of a glossary, which gives you familiar with the terms in case you're a little bit fuzzy around the edges, especially for a small business owner or somebody getting new into the email market. This really gives you a full glossary of every word and every term you're going to need to know or would like to know in order to be more familiar and be able to speak at a higher level with regard to what you're doing in the email marketing space.
Okay, that's excellent, and that's glossary. FAQ is there it is. Frequent. That's very helpful too, isn't it? Now, if you click on this little plus sign over here, that's the answer then, right?
Yep, you got it.
Means there we have it. Okay, and we are a smart community for using this. I'll have to tell you. Here. Okay, that's the answer. Okay, no problem. And however long it is, that's how you get it. Creative guidelines. Did we already look at that? No, these are just the guidelines into building it, right?
Yep, this helps you if you're going to use the email creative builder. These are the guidelines that we highly suggest you use in order to experience the greatest return and the greatest response rate on your emails. It's a general overview. It gives you some general ideas for how to build and market your emails so that you are really experience the greatest success in your email campaigns. We wanted to build this and make it as useful to our clients as possible because the more successful they are, the more successful we are. We're really nothing without our clients being happy and successful.
Okay, and so that's pretty cool. Now, we pretty much went over everything here. Support's obvious, creative examples obvious, resources obvious. We did the email creative builder. We did the advertiser. Did we do the tracking dashboard?
Go ahead and click on it. And this doesn't have all that much for us right now because we haven't launched any live campaigns to this platform in particular yet. Right now, you might as well consider this to be a demo. But what you would see here is it would give you those different IDs to identify your specific campaign. It would give you the dates that it ran through, the name of the campaign, how many emails were sent out, your opens and your clicks, both as a percentage in the total number. And based on this information,
standard, right? Yeah, I mean, most email programs, they do this. Anything special about our tracking?
There is something special where at the end of your campaign or during your campaign, you'll be able to download a specific report that gives you some general graphs and tables, bar charts, etc., that really kind of spell out the performance of your campaign over time. There's something that's pretty special about what we do, considering that this is toward acquiring new customers and new prospects, new responses, if you will. We really optimize around that all important crucial metric in email marketing of an open rate, and we measure to ourselves to be at what we maintain that 10% open rate over purchased volume. So if you are trying to target, say, 100,000 people, send out 100,000 emails, we're saying that we'll get you 10,000 opens for that campaign.
Excellent. Okay, now this is the last one we haven't looked at, right? The campaign dashboard.
Yep. So this, if you want to click on set up new campaign.
Okay, and this is what we did when we did the 41,000 out of Rhode Island, right?
Yep. So if you want to, we can click on select advertiser. We'll just put it in for test right now.
Okay.
Enter PO number. This is for your own kind of tracking, so you can just assign it any kind of PO number. If you're working with a client in particular and you want it to be attributed to their invoice, you can put it in that same PO number there to keep it all tracked together. You assign it a campaign name, call it test for now. Got it?
Okay.
You select whatever industry category. This will help the campaign to try and optimize a little bit on the side, but it's also a lot for tracking. So let's select other for now.
Okay. And probably more columns will be added as we go, right?
Yep, anything that will end up being needed for the client. For saved counts, select the count. We'll select RI 35 to 45.
Which was there's our 41.4, okay.
It pulled in directly that count for you and give you the available quantity for that count. Now for the deployment, this is where we start talking about the number of deployments and the actual deployment that we want to send out. Let's say we only want to send out 25,000 because that's what our budget provides for. Enter the 25,000 into that deployment quantity.
Oh, well, wait, it's got a 1 through 10, or one deployment, but the amount, where does the amount go?
Where it says available quantity, the next box.
25,000, okay. Now, do we know which 25,000, or is it just random from all of the different ages?
The database will select it for you and end up sending out those emails.
Okay. Or we can just, if it's all, what do we do? Just leave it blank?
You would enter the full number, 41704.
Okay, got it. One deployment to 25,000. Now, if we wanted to do a second deployment, will it automatically know to send it to the other 16704 that we didn't do the first time?
The engine itself will try to send out all of the emails it can and fill in the gaps between which records had bounces, etc., during the first deployment of the campaign. So for that first deployment, it'll send out to 25,000. The second deployment will send it out to all of the ones that had successfully delivered before, including the I believe not including the opens, but it'll also populate the rest of that campaign amount up to the 25,000 again. So when you're thinking about the deployments, think about it as deploying first to 25,000 people, a second deployment again out to 25,000 people, including the people you'd sent out before that didn't bounce.
Okay. And then we got this, deployments, one, whatever. Now, what if we put 2 or 3? What does that mean? It's going to do like 8,000 at a time if we put 3?
Nope, it'll do 25,000 each time.
Oh, 25,000 each time. But so what's the idea of these deployments? Why would you do 3 deployments of the same amount?
So if you wanted to send out an email creative to somebody, but you didn't want it to happen to be missed or deleted by accident or deleted in a hurry from somebody who's just trying to clear out their email box, you send out multiple different deployments. It'll be sent out, one maybe today, maybe one tomorrow, or one a week from now, etc., as separate deployments out to try and maximize your response performance.
Now, can we determine when those deployments go out, or is it just a day per day?
There are notes in a later section inside this campaign setup that you can actually provide and customize specifically the terms and conditions of your actual deployment within reason.
Okay, and of course, this is a pretty cool thing. Redeploy to openers, yes or no? Now, what does that mean?
So when you typically what we encourage people to do is do 2 deployments as well as 1 redeployment to openers. And so, and that's just a very industry standard for, especially for smaller businesses, in order to maximize their response performance from an email marketing campaign. And what the redeploy will do is it'll send the email out to the people who opened the emails previously as a way to just kind of keep you top of mind, fresh marketing to people who are known to have responded before.
Okay, very good. And then what is this one right here?
So if you need to add in a suppression file into the mix, you enter the information for the team who ends up actually having their hands a little bit into the mix here to ensure that the campaign runs smoothly. You'll give them the information, say it's a Dropbox or an FTP information, etc., that you need to provide them for. They'll take that file and suppress that list of people from this mix. So if you're running a prospecting campaign and you don't want an email to go out to your existing list of people in the state of Rhode Island, because maybe you're giving out a coupon, say $10 off your next order, etc., you might want to exclude your current customers who are already spending money with you, and you can provide that information for that file right there.
Oh, I see. Very good. Okay, so that's that. That's what we're pretty much done with that. Now let's go ahead and close this off, Ian. But I wanted to run up on the. Okay, go ahead. Where you want to
go? Go back down to no on the campaign itself, because there's a second page that I want to go over.
Oh, there is. Okay, let's go down here then. Oh, next. Okay.
You'd have to repopulate the boxes. I'll just briefly talk about what's on that next page. So on the next page is where you implement your creative that maybe you designed in the email creative builder, or you have the ability to upload your own creative for that campaign, as well as the additional information regarding like those notes that you need to add about how to actually run the campaign, anything specific about it. Maybe you add in multiple email creative types, so you can provide, the first email creative type goes out for the first deployment, the second out for the second deployment, and then the third out to the people who opened previously.
Excellent. Okay, that's an excellent deal. Okay, very powerful dashboard. I'm pretty proud of it. I know you are proud of it too, and we continue to make it better. Anything else we want to look at right before we go? I don't know what that thing is. Okay, forget that.
I believe that we're pretty all set right now. That's the vast majority of what we're going to be going over today. Unless you have anything else you want to cover, Steve, I think we're good.
I think that's a good overview. I appreciate your time, Ian, and we will continue to make this better to bring small business owners solutions that only the big boys can access, and in reality, better than the big boys for a small business budget. That's our mission here at Smart Community. We continue to advance that mission, and Ian believes the same way. So thank you very much, Ian. Appreciate your time.
No problem. Thanks, Steve. Have a good one.